Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3.
You want me to jump? Can we jump in? See if I hear anything?
Yeah.
I just like search
But look at
clothes.
it didn't even, where's the closed captioning?
YouTube is behind, remember?
Oh, here.
Oh, you just turned it off though.
Okay, yep. Okay,
Yeah,
so that's working.
I remember it was farther behind.
Okay, so that's working. So what about,
Andy good? Andy good? Okay. I'll read this thing. Hi, good evening, everybody. We're going to go ahead and call the Clovis City Council meeting to order for August 3rd, 2026 at 6 p.m. And we are going to have the flag salute by Councilmember Matt Basco. Please join me in saluting our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That's not Councilmember Bassinger.
Oh, is that
Basco. Oh. Both B's. I said Basco, right? Didn't I? Okay.
It's just wrong with this.
Oh, see, it's, I have Basco.
We're on summer vacation, we don't know our names.
Yeah,
Oh, that's me.
okay.
You did go.
I was looking just at our cheat sheet here. Okay. I have, yeah, it's you, right? Okay. All right. We are going to read WebEx information for at least a month until everybody
Mayor,
knows it.
let me just do really quickly roll call. sorry.
Yes, let's do that.
Councilmember Ashbeck?
Here.
Councilmember Baskel? Councilmember Bessinger?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Pierce? Here. And Mayor Moanatua?
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brianna. All right. The City of Clovis now offers remote public participation through WebEx. Members of the public wishing to address the council remotely must join using the audio feature only and remain muted until recognized and called on. Public comments will be taken first from those attending in person, followed by remote participants. Anyone providing public comment will be asked to provide their name and address for the record, but doing so is voluntary and not a condition for participating in the meeting. The same time limits apply to both in-person and remote speakers. To request to speak, click the raise hand button in WebEx, or if joining by telephone, press *3. The City of Clovis encourages respectful participation from all members of the public. Okay. Thank you for that. Now we will go to public presentations and proclamations. We have a presentation of proclamation honoring McCaffrey Homes on their 50th anniversary. And so if the McCaffrey family can stand up, and Councilmember Lynn Ashbeck will be presenting this proclamation.
It is my pleasure, come on up here. It is my pleasure to read this. I think I've known the McCaffrey family the entire 50 years of your existence, actually. I think our junior league days go back almost that far, Karen. So this is recognizing the 50th anniversary of McCaffrey Homes. Whereas McCaffrey Homes is celebrating 50 years of home building excellence in California's Central Valley, providing generations of families with quality homes, thoughtfully designed neighborhoods, and a commitment to exceptional customer service. Whereas, founded by Bob and Karen McCaffrey in partnership with local home building pioneer John Bonadelli, McCaffrey Homes has grown into a respected family-owned company whose legacy continues through 3 generations, visible here today, dedicated to serving the residents of Fresno County and the surrounding region. And whereas McCaffrey Homes has played an important role in the growth and development of the city of Clovis, including being among the first home builders in Loma Vista Village. Look at it now. Come a long way since those first neighborhoods. And helping shape the vision of a connected, walkable community through its support of neighborhood parks, trails, and open spaces. Whereas for 5 decades, McCaffrey Homes has demonstrated a commitment to innovation, quality, craftsmanship, energy-efficient design, and the creation of welcoming communities that enhance the quality of life for residents throughout the Central Valley. And whereas the company's dedication to excellence has earned numerous local, regional, and national awards and recognitions, reflecting the trust, confidence, and appreciation of homeowners, industry professionals, and community organizations alike. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Clovis City Council, on behalf of the citizens of Clovis, does hereby recognize and congratulate McCaffrey Homes on the occasion of its 50th anniversary and extends its sincere appreciation for 5 decades of contributions to the growth, prosperity, and development of the city of Clovis and the Central Valley. Be it further proclaimed that the City Council offers its best wishes to McCaffrey Homes for continued success for another 50 years in the years ahead as it carries forward its tradition of building homes, strengthening neighborhoods, and serving the community. And this proclamation is signed today by all of us up here with gratitude for what you have done for the city and the valley all around. So thank you so much.
Thank you. So I want to first say real quick, just that actually this is our fourth generation.
Oh,
So,
oh, wait, 1, 2, okay, fine.
so up here with me, my name's Brent McCaffrey. I know many of you from the council and from staff, and a lot of us have become friends over the years, and it's been a pleasure working here with you. With me are my parents, Bob and Karen McCaffrey, and then McKenna Knowlton, and my niece, and then Dylan Knowlton also. And Dylan, did you have something you wanted to say?
It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for all of your guys' support.
All right.
Very good. That's a tough act to follow there. So, on behalf of everyone here from McCaffrey Homes, thank you for the wonderful proclamation. Recognition of our 50 years. We're deeply honored by this recognition. Clovis is a city that has earned its reputation through thoughtful leadership, strong community values, and a commitment to creating quality of life for residents. I firsthand have, remember that from my days of working on the GPAC, the General Plan Advisory Committee, when we were working and updating and looking at everything from Loma Vista to the whole city and participating in that, and how you brought the community together to be part of the process. We are proud to have been part of its growth and success over the years. This milestone reflects the dedication of your employees, our employees, trade partners, customers, and community partners who have supported us through the past 50 years. We're grateful for this opportunity to continue investing in our region and helping families create places they are proud to call home. And that's the Clovis way, and that's what Clovis embodies. Thank you again for this special recognition. We are truly honored. So thank you.
Lynn and the entire City Council, Mr. Mayor, thank you so very much. We were deeply moved and touched by that beautiful proclamation that you read. We've always enjoyed being a part of the Clovis community, and we look forward to returning very soon.
Great.
And I just want to say something very quickly, that it's been 50 years, but I got another 20 in me. and I remember the days of Harry Armstrong, Dennis Prenderville, Peggy Boss,
Love
Stan
that.
King. Those were wonderful days, even though some of them didn't vote for us, but they were wonderful days, and we built several thousand homes in Clovis, and we're coming back in a big way. So be prepared.
Love that.
Any comments from the council?
I just was going to add, Clovis has been so lucky over the years to have had building partners that cared as much about this city as we did. And you all probably started some of that work 50 years ago with the Gambers and others along the way and the Bonadelli family. But that's partly why Clovis is unique. People didn't just come in and build and take their money and go somewhere else. So you really invested here, and it does show off. So really, thank you. And I always tell the story about your son, because I think Brent was I had just gotten elected, and I think I was the first person I think you sent him out to meet with, like, go talk to her. And honestly, I think I went home and said, oh, for the love of God, they'll never make it. They'll never make it, because you were so like, I don't know, I think it's this, but look, you've all grown up. So it's so great. It's so great to see how your family has thrived, and we'll look forward to how many more years you got? 20 more, you said?
Yeah, at least another 20.
Well, Karen and I have 30, so we got you. We got you. We got you. Thank you so much. Congratulations. Thank you so much. We have this for you if you would like this.
Thank you.
And I also just wanted to say to the McCaffrey family, you fulfilled the Loma Vista vision of trails from the four corners going into a central park, and you built that very well with trails at that time at 50 foot, and then, we did decrease it to 30.
That made you longer, we know.
Yeah.
We got that.
And so thank you. And not only that, you give so much to the community that many times we forget, whether it's with the hospital, with nonprofits. Thank you for all that work as well. Congratulations on 50 years. Please come forward with the proclamation for you.
Young man, you can take it. You share that with your family. Thank you. So great to see you. It's been nice to see you. That story will never go away. You get younger and worse as time goes on.
Yes. Okay, all right.
Thanks for coming
Thank
out
you.
here. Appreciate it. See you soon.
Okay, now we will move to public comments. Comments is a time for members of the public to address the council on item within our jurisdiction, but not on the agenda. So if you would like to speak, you have 3 minutes. You can come up to the podium here. And if you can state your name and address for the record. Okay, seeing none, we'll close that. Anyone on WebEx?
We do not have anyone on WebEx.
Okay, now we'll move to the consent calendar. Brianna, can you shut that microphone over there? Okay. Items on consent calendar are routine in nature and are recommended for approval by the city council. These items will be considered and voted on as a single item unless a council member requests separate consideration of any item. Does any council member like to pull any of the items? I think it's items 2 through 13. Okay. Anyone here in the public like to address items 2 to 13, consent calendar? Anyone on WebEx? On
We
the
do
web?
not.
Okay. Bring it back to the council.
I'll move for approval of consent items 2 through 13.
Second. Okay, motion second on the floor. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we will now move to public hearings. We have several. First item is item 14. Consider approval of resolution SPR 2026-008, a resolution of the City Council adopting a Class 32 categorical exemption from further environmental review under the California Environmental Quality Act, and approve a site plan review for the site layout and design of the new City of Clovis alternate dispatch center and associated site improvements located at 2288 Encino Avenue, City of Clovis, owner and applicant. Staff on this is Marissa Parker, and gentlemen, what's your name?
Benjamin Little, I'm the project engineer for the alternate dispatch center.
Okay, thank you, Benjamin. All right, Marissa, it's all yours.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. So tonight's item is a request for construction of a new 4,000 square foot alternate dispatch center for our Clovis Police Department. This project is proposed for a half-acre site located just north of Fire Station 6, which is west of Encino Avenue between Duncan Avenue and Loma Vista Parkway, which is just south of the Loma Vista Commercial Center at Shaw and Leonard and north of the Village Green Park. So this is within our Loma Vista specific and master planned areas. This specific site has been planned for public facilities since 2003. So it has a general plan land use designation for public facilities as well as the zoning associated with that. The site plan is on the screen now, and you can see outlined in blue the new building. In association with this project, there would be quite a few site improvements, including sidewalk, landscaping, a flagpole, and also a small plaza up here in the northeast area. And all of those improvements would be consistent with Fire Station 6 to the south. There is a rolling gate that just popped up in green right down here, and that would lead to 20 new parking stalls that would be on site for staff only. There would also be 7 new parking stalls on Encino, which would be a continuation of the parking that is already there by the fire station. And then moving on to the floor plan. So there are a lot of the typical office components, such as a break room and restrooms and storage space, but there is a very large open office space, which would consist of 14 desks for dispatchers, and then also a large training room, which would be available for Clovis PD or other city staff. And then looking at the elevations that are proposed, the new dispatch center would reflect that same Santa Barbara style that we see throughout Loma Vista. It's prevalent in the commercial center to the north and the Village Green Clock Tower and Fire Station 6, all within that same area. And then here are a couple other aerial views. So the first one would be looking east from the side, and then also to the west, which would be looking from Encino. So the parking that would be new along Encino is right here. With city projects, there is a lot of outreach and public meetings that are required. So we did hold 2 neighborhood meetings, one before Planning Commission and then one before Council tonight. Both of those meetings were held at the Village Green Park on June 16th and July 8th. Ben and I were there both days. We did not have any attendees at our neighborhood meetings. We did not receive any public comment either. And then the Planning Commission did consider the item at its June 25th meeting. And again, we received no concerns or opposing comments from any residents or the Planning Commission. And the Planning Commission did ultimately recommend approval of this SPR 2026-008. So with that, Planning Commission and staff are recommending that the City Council approve SPR 2026-008 because the property has been planned for public facilities since 2003. It meets the goals of our general plan. All of the required site plan review findings have been met, and this will help accommodate growth and promote safety throughout the city. So thank you, and we are happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Are there any questions? Okay, go ahead, Lynn.
Well, I just, if you think planning doesn't take a long time, since 2003, did you say?
Correct.
So 23 years this has been on the plans? That's a while. So anyway, good job. Just for education standpoint, what are the design elements in a dispatch center that are important to the well-being of our team? I'm guessing light or windows, or can you just talk about that? Like, what are those considerations for our team's mental health? Because it can't be an easy job. We know it's not an easy job.
Yeah, in discussion during the design stage, it was discussed that dispatchers love light.
Yeah.
That it is very stressful, so their big office space has a lot of windows and
Yeah. Nice.
open lighting.
So, I mean, our team feels like they could weigh in and say, this is important to us and we need someplace to take a moment or that kind of stuff as we put this together? Yeah?
Yes.
Nice. Thanks. Looks great. Could you put a trash can out front so I could put my trash in there when I walk around the park all the time? Scott said I could get my own trash can. Yes. Thank you, Scott.
Any other questions of Stan? Okay. It's just beautiful design. I think you guys did a great job with that. And so my one question is, will all dispatch move to this new center or only some? Does PD, can PD answer that? So, okay.
This center is, again, Captain Guerra, Clovis PD.
Okay.
The center is designed as an alternate center. It's for an
Okay.
emergency backup use. They will have dispatchers there on a periodic basis to make sure everything's up and running. We will use that training room a lot more
Okay.
than anything else. But that dispatch center is just in case we lose connectivity, anything goes
Okay.
down here, then all of our dispatch will move to this center, who will be up and running, stand alone, and not have to worry about any catastrophe, earthquake, any issue of that sort, where it'll be up and running on that end to continue to provide services.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and open the public portion. Anyone in the public like to comment on this item? Okay, seeing none, anyone online?
We do not.
Okay. We'll close the public portion and bring it back to the council. What's the pleasure of the council?
I'll make a motion for the approval as outlined in the staff report.
We have a motion, second. Motion second on the floor. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll move now. Thank you very much, Ben, Marissa.
Good job.
Yes. We'll move now to item 15. This is to conduct a public hearing, consider approval of resolution adopting the urban water management plan and the water shortage contingency plan. Staff on this is Kevin Tuttle, Assistant Public Utilities Director, and we always get new staff now. What is your name?
Heather Bastion with Fairmont Pritchard.
Okay.
I'm generally loud enough.
Heather, our consultant. Okay. All right, Kevin, floor is yours.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, we are here tonight to go over the urban water management plan and the water shortage contingency plan. So the urban water management plan is a very standardized document. It's completed every 5 years as part of Urban Water Management Planning Act law. So this was a law enacted in 2009 by the state that essentially required us to track things like water supply and water demand. And obviously very important, right? The state wants you to put it to a letter and then upload it to the state library at the completion of these documents every 5 years. There are a little bit nuance to it where this is for retailers with at least 3,000 connections or that serve 3,000 acre feet of water. To give you an idea, when we talk about an acre foot of water, you'll see that a lot. Think about a football field filled a foot high. That's about an acre foot of water. So when we're talking about 3,000 football fields with a foot of water over them, that's what we're looking at for these suppliers. This requires us to assess water use and supply over about 20 years. And as I mentioned, these are done about every 5 years. To the right, these are the general sections of an urban water management plan. So we go over things like, what is the system? What are the demands of the system? SBX 77 was a requirement that came in 2010 that required us to reduce water by 20% by the year 2020. And we continue to track that according to state law. And then we also have water supply reliability, the water shortage contingency plan, which I'll get to in the next slide, and then demand management measures, essentially incentives to control how much water we use. The water shortage contingency plan is included as a part of the Urban Water Management Plan, and it's a part of the Urban Water Management Planning Act law. It's required by the California Water Commission to be a separate document, even though it is included in the plan itself. It's a standalone item. These can be revised at any time. They are used to analyze a 5-year drought. And really this came out more heavily when we had that last mega drought that we went through, 2012 to 2016. And there, for the city, we have 6 water shortage stages or levels, you can call them. And essentially what happens with those stages is as a drought successively gets worse, we have higher goals of reducing water demand. And again, to the right, we have our sections of the water shortage contingency plan. And really the core sections of this are really getting into those levels and then what is our response to those levels. So the crux of an urban water management plan is really centered around population. All of the demand management and demand planning projections are centered around population. And that's the same with the SBX 77 requirements. That looks strictly at population and water use and how much water does a person use in the city. For the city of Clovis, we have 2 distinct areas in our water service area. We have the city itself, and then we also serve Tarpey Village. In 2025, the California Department of Finance estimated Clovis's population at 129,121 people. We've had about just over 2% growth on average over the last 15 years. And our estimated 2050 population is just over 213,000 people. Tarpey Village itself is mostly built out. They hover right around 4,000. For our water demands, now we get back into that acre foot. Remember, that's a football field a foot deep. And we use about 25,200 acre feet of water a year. And that's been, if you see in the graph there to the right, that's been about the trend since 2012. We've averaged about that amount. So we've more or less stayed static in our water use. About 75% of our water use in the city is residential. So that's single family and multifamily residential. And as we project out, remember we talked about that 2% population growth. That's what you see there in the orange line at the right in the graph there. We started about 30,000 acre-feet of water estimated by 2030. And by the year 2050, we estimate to use about 44,600 acre-feet per year. So how do we meet those demands? The city has been very proactive in the last 30 years in acquiring a diverse water supply portfolio. And that starts with our groundwater, and we are in the Kings Subbasin, and we have to manage that according to Sigma. But then the city has really sought to diversify that portfolio. So we have things like recycled water, we have water banking agreements, we have the Kings River water supply, and we have two actual supplies there. We have our normal Kings allocation, and we have what we call our firm water supply. And then there are other things that we look forward to in the future, like CVP water, and that's what we call the Class 2, and then Garfield and International are both CVP water. For that, we have about 50,000 acre-feet of supply available in 2025, and by 2050, we'll be up just over 75,000 acre-feet available. So we have a pretty diverse and substantial water supply portfolio. Getting into SBX 77 compliance. So as I mentioned earlier, this was, you may have heard the term 20 by 2020. That was the big catchphrase behind this law that came out in 2010. And essentially what they saw in the year 2010 when the law came about was they saw a need to reduce water use. And so they set a target of, hey, we want all of the water retailers to reduce water use by 20% by the year 2020. And so the city of Clovis had a baseline of about 250 gallons per day per person. That's the GPCD number you see there. And we had an interim target of reducing that to 224. That was our 10% goal, halfway there. And we actually achieved 165 at that time. By 2020, when we had to hit our 20% reduction, that target was 199 and our actual was 181. And so you might say, well, Kevin, why on earth did it go back up? 2015 was the middle of the drought. So that was when we had mandatory water supply cuts and water demand cuts of just over 30%. So that was kind of a forced issue, and we saw a little bit of a normalization come back in 2020. And more or less, we hung out there for a very short time before by 2025, you can see we're back down to 169. So that was an additional 15% that we dropped off of 2020's target. So we're doing quite well as a city in terms of being good stewards of our water.
Kevin, can I ask you
Yeah.
one general question with regards to SBX 7? Was the law only regulating commercial residential users, or was it regulating all users to reduce?
Yeah, great question. That was citywide consumption. So that was all the users. They were asking everyone to cut by 20%.
Even environmental?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. That was a...
So allocations to environmental uses, environmental, not city.
Oh, you're
I'm talking about what, this law is a state law, correct?
State law.
So did the environmentals have to also reduce per residential cities?
I'm not sure on that. So I could look into that and get back to you, but I don't
Yeah,
think there was environmental...
I think they
Do you wanna
weren't,
answer?
right? So it was only a restriction on us. And so the environmental still got their allocation, is what I'm understanding. I just wanted to put that out there so people.
That's correct, yeah. Environmentals did not have a reduction they were
Yeah.
mandated for.
There you go.
And so in other words, what the water that, wherever it's coming from, 100% still with environmental uses, and then all of us, cities, farms, commercial, residential, we have to reduce by whatever the law is.
Correct. I believe it was only applicable to urban suppliers, to
Yeah.
urban water users. So
Correct.
Yeah.
the 3,000 users or 3,000 acre feet that Kevin mentioned earlier, that was the only folks that size and larger that SBX 7 is applicable to. So even small communities didn't see that same impact.
Oh, so it's only, okay, thank you.
Okay, so getting into our water shortage contingency plan, as I mentioned, this is really to look at times of extreme shortage. So if we're in a drought situation, or say there was an emergency where we need to call on water demand reductions in like an immediate term, this is what this plan is meant for. In 2020, we went through and did a comprehensive update. The law changed quite a bit in 2020. And so we went through and did the 5-year drought assessment, and we also updated our shortage levels. So you can see there on the left-hand side of the screen, There are 6 shortage levels or stages, you might call them. And then in this update, we also include this as a separate appendix, but this included 2 new things. The standardized assessments, which goes through the urban water use objectives. That's a relatively new law that is coming about, and we expect to see the water shortage contingency plan kind of continue to grow with this as the urban water use objective law becomes more into play by 2030. But the other new thing was the seismic assessment. And both of those have been updated and included in our water shortage contingency plan, and that would be adopted tonight should council adopt it. The shortage levels or stages did not change as part of this update, and so those are maintained the same. As I mentioned, demand management measures, these are ways of incentivizing water use reductions. And so we have things that are required, like water waste prevention ordinances, required metering. So we just went through that metering project in Tarpey Village to get the entire system metered. We also have things like conservation pricing, public education outreach, and then assessing and managing distribution system losses. There are other optional things like residential plumbing retrofits, water survey programs, the rebate program for washing machines and toilets. That's a program we've had for many years. And then commercial, industrial, institutional, that's the CII you see up there, conservation programs, and school education outreach.
Mayor, I have a question. Yes, go ahead. Are we changing our standards as far as when someone brings a site plan in that, especially for commercial, that we're making them make it significantly less water
Yeah,
tolerant?
so we have our MWELO program that as plans come in, they have to adhere to that. And that is the water efficiency landscape ordinance, I believe it is. And that is where we actually go in and evaluate how much water we estimate them to use, and they have to adhere to our standards.
Because I've noticed a couple of things that have been built that actually I don't think meet our standards for that, but I can look at them as we go.
Thank you, Kevin.
Yep. And then just wrapping everything up, so there's an agency coordination element to these plans as well. So just to give a recap, on March 31st, we sent out agency notification letters regarding our intent to update. July 1st, we sent out the draft plans to the agencies we notified, and this is typically local agencies, so think City of Fresno, County of Fresno, Fresno Irrigation District, Fresno Metropolitan Flood Control District. Those are the agencies we're notifying and sending this to. July 19th and 26th, we published in the Fresno Bee our notice of public hearing, and we are here tonight to conduct that hearing and consider the resolution adopting the plans. After, and should it be adopted tonight, we are required by law within 30 days to submit the plan to DWR as adopted. So in summary, we have surpassed our SBX 77 objective. We've done quite well, as I mentioned. We are doing our part in conserving, and we continue to promote that even through our water rate update that we just went through. Conservation was a big topic in that. We continue to observe demands, and we know they will rise as we continue to grow as a city. And as part of meeting those demands, we continue to have the goal of a reliable water supply. And with that, our surface water, groundwater, continue with our banking agreements, and then recycle water as always. We have the plan in place. Should the city ever experience a water shortage or a mandated water conservation effort, again, like we've seen in the past, and consistent with the law, we intend to review and update this plan every 5 years. And with that, I'll open up to any questions.
Questions? Go ahead, Lynn.
At the risk of telling you I didn't read every single page in this document, can you talk about, in an urban water management plan, you talk about industrial and commercial uses. Is there a special call out for fighting fires in an urban water master plan? Because as we get more houses, more densely laid out, does it call out attention to firefighting capability and water use in those sort of catastrophic moments? But any consideration of that, or are they just calculated as an industrial or commercial use, I guess, or? So
it would typically fall in like an other use in the planning documents. So as we as we go through all of our water meters, and so as part of these updates, we have to go through all of our water billing data and gather it all and compartmentalize it all into single-family residential, multifamily, commercial, industrial, and then there's an other category. And that would be where you're firefighting, any type of water losses, things like that. It would fall into that category. There's nothing specific in the law, though, to ask us to pull out a fire flow as its own category.
Is it, so it's not, I didn't miss it in this document, so I didn't really have to admit that I didn't read the whole thing. Shoot, I read the whole thing, every word. I knew I didn't see it.
I believe you.
Yes, sort of. It's interesting, I mean, it might be a question for something, because we've talked about over the years as we grow out into the rural areas that are still farmland or dry grass or all of that, like what is that challenge? I'm looking at my firefighter friends in the back row. And then I just think the density question is it some implication for firefighting and access to water and how fast and how much. And so anyway, I feel like it's something, I know you guys think about that all the time, but I'm surprised it's not required in an urban plan because people live in urban areas. That seems odd to me. But anyway, just a comment, and I know you all at the fire department pay attention to that, but it seems like it'd be worth calling out at some point about our plans for that, because we're going to have 213,000 people here in 25 years that are going to be living closer together. So it just seems like some opportunity. Just a comment.
Absolutely.
Any other questions? Go ahead,
Yeah,
Diane.
I have a question on the conservation pricing. Obviously, as you mentioned, that was kind of a big topic of conversation with our water rate study. And can you just address the difference between the non-drought rate and the drought rate, how we have different volumetric tiers? Because when we had that conversation, we were talking about the litigation and the court cases that said, unless you can pinpoint why it is that the next gallon of water costs more to deliver, then you can't separate it out. And so what is the rationale for that? If there's a drought going on, does that actually cost us more? Here in volumetric charge for tier 1, it's 22 cents per kilogallon, whatever. So can you address that with this specifically on the conservation pricing?
Yeah, and conservation pricing really now is more of a misnomer, right? Because the state law is leading us more to saying, hey, you can't charge more to encourage conservation. But what we do have in the city is we have what we call our drought surcharge. And essentially what that does is that adds on to, that's essentially an adder to our water rates, and it allows us to stay revenue neutral during a drought. Because as you can imagine, when we have to impose these demand reductions, less water means less revenue coming in, right? And we still have to operate at net zero. We can't operate in a deficit. So what the drought surcharge does is allows us to get back to that net zero while in these forced demand reduction scenarios.
And then the 3 different tiers here also, how does that factor in on the volumetric charge?
So the volumetric charge, do we have the tiers in the master plan?
Yes.
Or in the water management plan?
In the appendix.
Okay. Oh, yeah, so what we have in the appendix is the previous rates, and then I believe we have the change to the new rates in there. And that's required by law to where we have to document where we were at the time of the plan and then where we're going.
I just noticed the table was called current water user rates, so I guess that was a little confusing.
Yeah, and I think when we started the plan, that was started prior to a council adoption, so that's why those are included.
Yeah, the timing just didn't work out in our favor.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay, I had a couple. So first, with regards to calculating water and I'm going to get to wastewater, are we crediting ourselves the full amount that we are sending to the Fresno Clovis? And so I know this is going to open a can of worms, but are we calculating that here, that 11, 12%, or are we not even calculating it here? To give us sort of a clear picture of what's going on with wastewater and affluent.
The recycled water included in the urban water management plan is strictly what is produced by our sewer treatment water reuse facility.
So we are including it?
We are not including the
We're
Fresno
not
flow.
including it.
No.
But
we do have a statement in the plan that we are working with the Fresno Irrigation District to develop an exchange agreement similar to what the city of Fresno has. So the city of Fresno has an exchange agreement with the Fresno Irrigation
Yeah.
District to essentially exchange every 1 acre foot of recycled water, or the water they produce at the wastewater treatment facility. In return, they get a ½ acre foot roughly of surface water. And so we have a statement in our urban water management plan that we are working towards a similar agreement in exchange with the Fresno Irrigation District.
Is that the best way to present that issue? In other words, I always say, if you don't put it down, then all your documents don't support that we are wanting that 12%. So shouldn't we state it and say, we're going to put it down here, our study says that's ours, it's going to be part of our plan? Or is it wiser to just go, well, look at this thing we're trying to work with the city of Fresno on, and hopefully, I always look at it and I say it to police and fire, if you keep saying growth and in your, CEQA documents, oh, no effect on us, no effect on us, and then later on you come up and say, oh, we can't service that no more, we can't service that more, then the documents don't support the narrative. And so that's my question. Should we not do that, Scott, Andy, or is this, because we don't want to poke the bear, and so just leave it alone and we'll work it out? Or do we go, put it down? We're going to start saying that we own it. Our studies are going to say we own that 11, 12%. I don't know if the council knows, so that's why I kind of, yeah, and so that way we start. So I don't know, Andy, you can answer that, or do we just go, hey, it's too touchy, don't put it in the documents? And so Andy, help me out with that.
It has been called out in our plan for us to pursue that as a water supply source, and that is critical to the city's future growth of water supplies, which, correct me if I'm wrong, Kevin, that was included in our out years of water supply on those, like in 2050 or?
So the flow we send to Fresno is not included in
So
the plan.
I think
at
it
this
would be
time.
fine for us to alter the statement in this with council direction, to say that this is a water supply that we are depending on and developing for future use. And that would probably give us the leg to stand on. But feel free to push back on that if there's concern
I don't
from
know
the
if
staff.
is the council all kind of understanding why I'm pushing this?
Yeah, is this the right document for it?
My thing is, it's got to be in every document, because we want to, because it's calculating our shortages, right? And so our potential, we're stating it as in, okay, that's there, but are we counting that 11%, 12% as well? Because if we're not, then it makes it where, well, your study didn't even say it. And now today you're saying that you want it and you owe it. So I say, just put it in all the time. So that way our documents support our position.
And I'll have Paul call it out here. He has it pulled up in front of him just to provide some clarity to council on what we're saying.
Okay.
So there is a section in the urban water management plan that says the city is exploring ways to recover the city's treated effluent either directly through a recycled water pipeline project or indirectly through exchanges with the city of Fresno and FID. So although the volume isn't included in any of the tables, there are statements within the text of the document identifying that effluent is the city's, and the city is pursuing, city of Clovis, and the city of Clovis is pursuing ways to recapture that or capture that. One of the challenges right now is the effluent is displaced in a different location, so we need to have an exchange agreement or some way of physically getting that water back into our jurisdiction. If that makes sense.
So
But
we
my
can look at
question
that
is
language and bolster it
okay.
if council provides that direction. But it seems pretty clear that it's our effluent.
Yeah.
We're working on how to bring it back into our supply, but it's not calculated because it's probably not in effect at the moment.
But I just want to be, this document is not calculated, that's what I've seen, right? See, so it's not, it's not taking that into account. And I'm just saying, I think we should and we must. So that way it's saying, hey, that we are accounting for it. That's all. I just don't know what the rest of the council is thinking regarding that, but we're going to head that on soon. And so we just got to be ready. So, yeah. Okay. All right. And then my other is with regards to sort of the studies, do we take into account the studies with regards to potential SDUs, ADUs, and SB9 lot splits. Because sometimes when we look at it, we're just looking at single family, we're looking at everything, but then these things are gonna be coming, which will take water. And so are those considered in the studies because they are exempt from the studies many times? But should we start, so that way if it's 100 units, which potentially can have an ADU because it's larger lots, should we start going, hey, it's not just, one, it's gonna take 1.5. And so that's multiplied by 100. Does my question make sense? Or should we start looking at that now and going, hey, these are the true needs or potential true needs instead of just, oh, it's only zoned for 100, so let's not even think about anything else.
Yeah, no, it makes total sense, and I'll start with an answer and then maybe look to Heather to provide any additional detail. But the urban water management plans really focus on population. And so when we get into the concept of ADUs, and that's kind of a density discussion on like a per acre basis, that would be more of like a water master plan. Then that's a totally separate document. And Lynn, I think to your earlier question, talking about fire flows, that would also be where we would handle that, is in an actual water master plan where we say, hey, this area needs this much for fire flow, this area needs this much for fire flow. That's more in your water master plan, which is a separate document. And those would typically come after the general plan update that we're involved in. So you would see those density discussions there, and then I'll look to Heather to maybe validate me or tell me I'm crazy.
No, I would echo exactly what you said, Kevin, and maybe only add that what you're talking about, Mayor, is something that we would look at in arrears so at the 2030 update, we'll look at our water demands and how the population has changed.
Okay, you look back, okay.
Then we would update that GPCD number that we're using to project out our future demands.
Okay.
To modify it now would be guessing, and so we like to base that on data. So in 5 years, if we see that population really has swung in a different way versus the water demands, then the GPCD will reflect it, and our future projections will then reflect that updated number to 2050 and beyond.
Well, good, thank you for that clarification. My last question is with regards to Mayor Pro Tem's question with regards to drought surcharge. Those are typically mandated from the state, right? When it says there's a drought, cities reduced by 25%, it's rarely do we do it. And so it's them seeing it to us, and because they are demanding it, then the drought surcharge kicks in. Is that sort of how it works?
Yes, and that's actually in our municipal code. So our municipal code pretty explicitly states that we cannot implement the drought surcharge on our own, that it requires a state mandated drought scenario before we can even implement that.
Okay. I wanted to say that just so that our residents understand when we implement, it is a state mandated, not City of Clovis mandated. So that way, we kind of understand that, hey, it's coming, but there's no funds coming to help us still be net zero. And so I just wanted to put that up. Okay,
correct.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, we'll open up the public portion. Anyone in the public like to address the council on this item?
Brian Wilson, Bergen Avenue. My only question is on the rates for decreasing the 0 to 10 and then 10 to 20. I could not find it, and Lynn might be able to answer this question too, because the 221 pages she read was wonderful. I didn't get through all of them.
Ask me in particular.
I could not find that in the document as to how those get kicked in. At what point do we go to 10? Is that something you set up, or is it when we get down, is the state mandated? How does those levels, there's 6 levels, when do they kick in? Or who determines the kick in?
Okay.
Thank you.
Go ahead, answer.
I'm going to let them get it, Brian.
Yeah.
I don't want to embarrass them, so they can get it.
Yeah, those are mandated by the state. So we talked a little bit about 2015 in our big drop in demands, right? That was a 34%, I believe, mandated reduction. So that would fall into that 30% tier where, okay, we need a 30% reduction. These are the rules now we're adhering to within our water use. And each one of those stages has a set reduction built into it and a corresponding action based on those reductions.
Anyone else?
I might
Thank
just
you, Tom.
add to
Oh,
Kevin's
yes, uh-huh.
answer.
Go ahead.
The water shortage contingency plan is often thought of as a drought plan. It's actually for any water shortage contingency. So say you lost 3 wells tomorrow because of a power shortage
Mm-hmm.
or something else catastrophic happened, you could also invoke those levels. And I believe it's the city manager who has authority to authorize those levels if there's a different reason besides drought.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Trevino.
Yeah, my name is Steve Trevino, I live on Bullard. I have a really dumb question for you guys. There's some talk that there's gonna build a gigantic golf course, just, I guess, north of here or northeast of here. And last time we had a drought, I let my lawn die because it wasn't worth it for me to spend all this money on water. Should I plant my grass this year, or should I just let it go? Because you're talking about water, you know? It takes a lot of water. We see these brand new houses, they're planting grass, you know? Who knows, next year, there's gonna be another drought, you know? If we're gonna have this brand new golf course, let's say the gentlemen, investors go out there and spend millions of dollars on a brand new golf course, and all of a sudden, there's a drought. That's what happened, I think, some years ago. There used to be a golf course out there in Shaw McCall about 50 years ago, I guess, and it went kaput. So just a dumb question. Thank you.
And so this plan is just for when we have water shortage and what the contingency would be for us, for residents, how we operate during those times. Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public in person, and then web. Anyone on
We do
web?
not have anyone.
Okay, we will close the public portion, bring it back to the council for any questions or motions. We're looking for our approval here.
Motion to approve a resolution adopting the urban water management plan update and a water shortage contingency plan.
I'll second that.
Just a question on the motion. It will get the guidance what we were discussing earlier, where Andy, you were trying to see how that language with affluent and wastewater.
Yeah, we can work with staff to make sure the
Strengthen that.
language is appropriate and bolstered enough to
I just
protect
want to
our
make sure
rights.
it included that. Drew?
Yeah, if I could, just ask a couple clarifying questions, because I know where the mayor was going, but I want to make sure staff and I understood exactly what it was. Do we think pages 6-12 through 6-19 adequately cover, I think, the mayor's question on the potential effluent use? Because it is addressed on those pages.
But I thought I got the response from Heather that those numbers are not included. So as long as they are, I think it's good. But if it's not in these charts, that's what I was trying to
So a
get to.
couple follow-up questions. Number one, I don't think the city has yet used that water, correct? So, and then I guess the next question is, would it be more appropriate to include those numbers in a different report, like the wastewater report or something else? Or would those numbers be in another report? Or should they be in this report?
So I'm looking at the report here. So we do document the flow that goes to the Fresno Clovis Regional Wastewater Reclamation Facility, but we do note that it is not located within the urban water management planning area, and it is not included in the recycled water flows that we are accounting for as a source of supply. So in documenting supplies, this would be an appropriate place to document a supply if we were stating affirmatively that it is our supply. It would be an appropriate place to document it here. As Scott mentioned, we could also document it going forward in, say, our wastewater master plan. We could document it in our recycled water master plan, which will all be coming up for review and updates in the next 2 to 3 years, we'll call it. So I think that's another place, but should the council prerogative be to include it also as a source of supply here and affirmatively state that, we could potentially document it here.
I'd like to amend my motion to include the city of Clovis reserves the right to take credit for the effluent which is sent to the regional wastewater plant. Mayor, do you think that'll?
Yeah, I think, Andy, does that give you clarity? Okay, yeah.
This way we're bookmarking it.
Yeah.
So,
In the second, are you gonna?
Is that exactly the language you want, or are you saying to staff, come up with a language that
Yeah.
sounds like that?
Ask
Yeah.
the staff
Yeah.
have liberty to adjust the language.
Yes.
Nothing
To the-
personal,
to
but
the
I don't know if that's the right
benefit-
language,
no,
but
okay.
yes,
To
that's
the
fine.
benefit of the city.
Yeah, staff will make sure that the report adequately
Yeah.
reflects that
Yeah,
number.
yeah, yeah, that's fine.
I guess one follow-up question, if I could. Is this going to require recirculation of the plan to any agencies, or can we just do this tonight?
So if we were to update those numbers, we would have to recirculate it because it would be an actual change to the overall supply for the city. So it would require recirculation and notification.
And then back to the city council later?
If
For
we
approval.
were, so the assistant city manager is asking me a question, and this is a good clarifying statement. So if we were to include it as a text edit, that would not require an update. So we could be stronger in our language without actually
that's
including it in the state tables. And that would suffice where I don't think we would need to recirculate it because it's just a textual edit. It's not an actual table that we're documenting to the state of California.
And that would be my
I'd be comfortable.
Mayor,
recommendation.
that was the
I'd be
reason that
comfortable
I,
with that, too.
that I said it in that way. We reserve the right to take
Yeah.
credit for it, but we're not putting a number out there.
I'm comfortable with that, the rest of the council. Okay, so motion, second. Any further discussion on it? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Heather. Now move to item 16. Consider approval and receive an update to approve a contract with Four Creeks Incorporated for a comprehensive signage code review for the city's electronic freestanding billboard signage code in an amount not to exceed $48,000 and approve staff's recommendation to execute a contract. Staff on this is George. Go ahead, George. George Gonzalez, our
Thank you,
Deputy
Mayor.
Director.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. Just to provide a brief summary, last year, in the summer of last year, per council's request, I presented an overview of the city's signage code and discussed such items as what is allowed and what's not allowed per our code right now. And one of them was pertaining to the code not allowing video or animated signs. I also discussed recent code deviations that the council did, and I used or presented two examples. One is the Old Town Rodeo Association digital sign along Clovis Avenue, and the second, a digital sign over by the Research and Technology Park area as well. In the presentation, staff provided three initial recommendations to council to consider. One of them being make no changes to our existing signage, leave it alone. It's working fine. Option two is direct staff to research and propose amendments and return back to council. And third, do a evaluation of potential changes as part of the general plan update process. And council finally, ultimately decided to direct staff to research and propose potential amendments to the code. Therefore, in early earlier this year, staff did do a simple request following our procurement process to acquire some proposals from consulting firms to see if they're willing to provide proposals to do a comprehensive review of our signage code. And unfortunately, we received no submittals. As a result, staff then proceeded to prepare and release a request for proposal, formally releasing that, and we did receive a proposal from Four Creeks, which I'll get into that a little bit. And by the way, Carl is here this evening with Four Creeks that may be able to address any of the questions that council may have this evening. So the RFP was specific in terms of it requested to evaluate and provide professional guidance on the city's existing signage program. Also develop a comprehensive understanding of the existing signage framework. For example, it's just, well, why is it that our sign is the way it is today? And also provide recommendations regarding potential updates and modifications to the signage policies and regulations, with a specific emphasis on a section dedicated to potential allowance of digital signage. And this is why it brings us now to today. We did accept a proposal by Four Creeks, and their proposed scope of work will include to conduct a detailed review of the city's signage code, perform a comparative analysis of peer jurisdictions, and develop clear, defensible, and implementable recommendations to support future sign code and policy updates, including a digital signage program. I think it's important to mention too that in conjunction with this proposal, if council chooses to move ahead with it, staff will be conducting community outreach in the fall as part of our general plan update process, where we'll also be getting the feedback from our citizens in terms of signage, what is it that they want to see, don't want to see, any recommendations that they would like to point out for council's consideration. So we'll be doing that as well. So what would be the next steps if council is comfortable moving forward with the Four Creeks scope of work? Then in early 2027, staff will come back with any proposed code changes, and also a presentation regarding the public feedback that we received regarding signage modifications. And also, if appropriate, any potential digital signage agreements for the installation of signage on public right-of-way property as well. And so therefore, staff is requesting that council this evening approve Four Creeks contract and the scope of work to conduct a detailed review of the city's signage code. The contract is not to exceed in the amount of $48,000, and the completion timeframe is 5 months from project kickoff. So therefore, that's why it would take us to early 27, and then we'll be back before council. And that concludes my presentation, and I'm available for any questions.
Questions? Go ahead, Lynn.
So we don't have the contract, we don't have the scope of work, so I don't know exactly all that it says. Can you describe, so I'm a little lost in the detailed review of the city signage code, peer jurisdictions, blah, 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 and then more talk on billboards. So is this just a billboard analysis, or when you mean sign ordinances, you mean the sandwich boards people put out in front of their retail stores, the things they put in the median island that they're not supposed to? Is it all of that, or is it just billboards and kind of monument signs?
It won't be just billboards, and it is going to be, in the true sense, a comprehensive review of our sign code. Any changes that we want to see change due to today's standards or visioning. It will also include on-site digital signs, commercial centers, individual business owners, and also off-site on public right-of-way. So all that will be analyzed.
Window signs in retail stores?
That's part of the comprehensive review, and if there's a desire to make any changes there, we can do that too.
Does it include an inventory of current paper billboards? Or billboards generally, not any kind, digital or otherwise, paper?
And I'll look at Carl to see if he can respond to that too, but that could be part of, we can do a comprehensive list of what's existing out there, just to identify them and see where we want to go moving forward with that.
Because I think what I'm a little worried about is I would say it has been, I'm going to go with 10 years might be too long, maybe 8 years since we've been talking about digital billboards in some fashion or another. And I feel like the question gets lost when you then talk about window signs and sandwich board signs and the men that go like that on Verizon stores and all of that. Like, I worry that we're burying the lead. The lead is about billboards and digital and otherwise.
Yes.
And so I want to make sure that we're not, as a friend of mine says, we haven't lost the plot line here. So that was the original question. And I do think having a broader look at our sign ordinance is right. But I don't want to lose that original question about billboards, because I do think one of the proposals we've seen is about a way to make revenue for the city, to generate revenue on city-owned property. Like, there's some very specific billboard-related questions that are at least 8 years old. And I can't imagine it takes a city a decade to answer the question about have a digital billboard, don't have a digital billboard, allow it here, don't allow it there. And so I just don't want to lose that, because you could get so lost in the window signs on retail spaces and what % of the window is covered. That's a sign ordinance, all of which add to the collective culture about our community and tidiness and all that, which I get. I just wanted to highlight the question, 8 years old or more, is billboards. So maybe you do a separate call out on billboards, you think a little more deeply about billboards. How many do we have? Because I think some of them probably look like blight themselves, and what do you do if you do digital? Do you get rid of all paper? I mean, I don't know. It's complicated by itself. So I don't know exactly how to get out that, but I would encourage our consultant to do a deeper look at that category, because that's how some of this started. Always need to update the sign ordinance. I get all that. I call on signs all the time, so I don't want them in the median island either. But I don't want to lose the original, or one of the early kind of through lines of this, and that was on billboards and revenue generation, and is it a thing, all of that. So that's my comment to the consultant as you do the work, but we have talked about this for so long. So we either want them or we don't, and we could kind of just call the question and move along.
Okay.
But I do think that the billboard question is open for a very long time. So just my 2 cents on the billboard question.
Okay.
Any other comments? Go ahead.
Yeah, my comments were, well, maybe not that lengthy, but along the same.
Well, that's because it's you and I me, so of course they're not that lengthy.
Along the same lines as was about the billboards and the digital signs on properties, because we've had current business owners that have asked us questions about wanting to put digital signs on their properties, whether it's a car dealership or different things, and we've said yes to new car dealerships, but maybe not old car dealerships, and so I would like to see us be kind of consistent on how we deal with all of our existing businesses as well when it comes to the digital boards. So, and like Council Member Ashbeck was stating here about the billboards and stuff, that's been a question, at least for the last 3 years for me too, is asking, is that a possibility as a revenue source? So I agree with the concepts there.
Okay.
Any other comments? Okay. Yeah, I too felt like it should not encompass everything. I think the big issue, I thought that day we were talking about was more digital and freeway big signs and all that, because some of us understood it was okay, but then some of us also understood 2 exceptions, right? CHSU and rodeo only. And so we were sort of like, okay. And then the school district already went forward, and we started seeing all these electronic signs, but we don't govern them. So how do we sort of just take all that and go, this is what Clovis can look at, here's some potentials. That's what I really want to look at and go, how do we evaluate all that with the values, goals, and policies that are already there? Because that keeps us Clovis. And then here are these bigger signs, how do we deal with it? Do we go, nope, one off only? If they think they have a chance, let them come and try, and we'll see if that's a place that needs it. Or do we change and go, no, there are places that require, or that we will set guidelines on these types of, I think that's what we wanted. At least that's what I understood we wanted, and not this comprehensive everything. Let's look at every sign, I don't think we're there. I think what we have on the small, regular signs, the sign program, I'm good with it. I don't have any issues with it. It's the other ones that I'm more confused with. I don't know what Councilmember Bessinger and Mayor Pro Tem kind of understood, so that way we can give you clear direction with the consultant.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I I think one additional comment. I think what we also talked about is this is from me, the non-technology human. I think digital signs are interesting, and you could change the message in 5 seconds. So as a community building tool, I think if we look at them not as some static, like Budweiser here, it's not that anymore. Because I do think there's a way to imagine billboards as a way to communicate in our city in a way that looks good and all that, blah, blah, blah. But I do think the static nature of today's of old billboards is kind of odd. That to change out a billboard is a big deal, and you buy 12 of them, and then you don't want it, and it's complicated. So I do think if you just thought about billboards, digital billboards, as a way to communicate in our community things that matter, events coming up, and products, and all of that, I think there's so much more opportunity if you view it that way. So I think that is the point here. Let's think about it differently, and we want them to look good and all that. They're not the neon signs of 1958 that were really ugly, and nobody wants all those everywhere. So I just want to echo what Vong said. I think that was the focus, but to bury it in a full-on sign ordinance evaluation, not going to happen in 5 months. Sorry, not going to happen in 5 months. And it's just going to it will be 10 years since we started talking about this. So it may be that the work initially focuses on billboards and the kind of modern way to imagine what they're for. And then if there's additional work that needs to happen for the rest of the window signs and the Verizon guy and all that, that's fine. But I don't want to lose that was the original intent. And if there's revenue to be generated, it's not going to, it's not going to help. It's not going to generate millions of dollars, but if there's revenue that we're leaving on the table, I think that's fair that we take a peek at that. So, just to highlight.
Go ahead, Drew.
I agree. When we sent this originally, it was for billboards. I hate to see us become the sign police and have, you're mad at your neighboring business and they put a little sign up that says open and you're saying, no, that's a technical violation because it's not correct, and we don't know what technology is going to bring to us next week with these things. So I think we need to focus on the billboards and especially the electronic ones, and the rest of the stuff, frankly, I think it can fix itself. But we leave an exception in there with the technology changes that we can reopen. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead, Diane.
Yeah. No, I'll just say I think that we don't want to miss the opportunity to do a comprehensive analysis of the ordinance, the sign ordinance. But I felt at least the executive summary in the staff report really did focus on the billboards and what we were looking for. And so I think as long as we have direction to the consultant, and I think this conversation probably lays it out pretty well, what we're really here looking for. But certainly if there is cause for staff to feel like, hey, there is an umbrella approach to this as well that would be beneficial for us to kind of have a complete package, but the electronic billboards, the potential revenue generation from those, et cetera, is really the impetus and the crux of what we're looking for, then I think we can kind of do it all without losing that, but still have the benefit of a consultant that can look at everything that we could potentially benefit from moving forward.
Okay.
Any questions of us, George? We're
Yeah,
gonna
I
open
do.
the public- Okay.
Just so I'm clear and I understand. So regarding the electric billboards and the potential of generating revenue from that, are we solely focusing on public right-of-way property, or are we also seeking to potentially allow, the Walmart shopping centers of the world, Target shopping centers to be able to have a electric billboard also, potentially, in this case, Walmart next to the freeway? I just want to make it clear which direction we're doing.
Well, I understand it as the type of signage, not the location of signage. So in other words, if someone wants it, what's our policy? How do we get through it? What are our guidelines? So that way people are clear. And so there was not a public facility versus a private at all, from my understanding, yeah.
I think that question is more to our idea of revenue generation. So
Right.
obviously, it would have to be public right-of-way areas where we would benefit from that. But I think that the option for commercial developments to have that kind of in their toolbox, I think that's where I'm most interested in the analysis of other jurisdictions and kind of seeing what those other peers are doing in regards to their signage and that type of thing.
Okay.
Because, you know, I do also think one of the reasons this came up and we maybe changed, I wasn't here at the initial part of it, but changed that mindset of electronic billboards is the fact that the school district, not under our jurisdiction, was moving forward with this type of thing. And so once it was not it isn't around, we don't have that here, then it's like, okay, well, if it's going to be here, how can we now implement it, take advantage of it, and kind of have that control over it ourselves to be benefiting from it also. And so I think that would also be reasonable to open it up to commercial development, but at the same time, you know, I think there is still kind of that Clovis feel and, you know, what we are as a community that doesn't necessarily automatically lend itself to that in my mind. So again, the peer jurisdictions is a part that I'm very interested in seeing how that comes back, to see how it's implemented elsewhere, to understand how it could be worked into who we are here in Clovis also.
Okay.
Go ahead, Drew.
I think it should include both. And with the private property, they need to explore the conditional use process for these things, and we need to come up with rules. We don't want, you know, not picking on Walmart, just the location. We don't want to have 10 electronic signs flashing on 168 and with CBD here and a big weed sign. That would make me crazy. So but definitely needs to be both though.
Okay.
Go ahead, Lynn.
I think our job is still that when you drive down Shaw, there's not a digital sign at every single shopping center. Because we have rules on square footage of sign based on square footage of building, all that. So I think we're in charge of that. We don't want to create like, sure, go ahead and change all of that. I just think there are distinctions about signs on city-owned property, signs on commercial property, signs on freeway frontage property. So there's got to be, I don't know anything about billboards, but I bet you there's categories of how to think about them that way. So that, I think, is the intent of the strategy. Never giving up what we want it to look like. We're in charge of that. So I don't want, I don't want a neon, or a neon, I said neon. I don't want a digital sign at every shopping center down Shaw.
Okay.
Definitely don't want that. I want the same kind of square foot requirements we have now. So I think that's there's sort of categories. I know since we're talking billboards, that's the way I think about it. There's different kinds of opportunities. So what do those look like?
Okay.
And you might have a city-owned property that's also a freeway. I mean, I don't know how that works, but so it's like a Rubik's Cube. You're gonna put it together that way. But that's what I think. But I think it's all of those signs, and then where they fall is Rubik's Cube.
Okay. Any other question? Okay. Andy?
Mayor, if I may. So back in the summer of '25, council asked for a comprehensive review because I think we wanted to get at that question of how does this look in whole. We also know that in today's kind of modern business climate, our sign standard doesn't exactly match up all the time to what businesses need. For instance, stores have become more of a brand than just the sign. So those are things that we'd like to look at in the comprehensive review to make sure we're as business friendly and as welcoming as possible while keeping our identity. So those things I'm looking for relative to this process. Definitely billboards was the source and definitely is a focus, but there's an opportunity here to take a look at a few of the things that have been challenges for us to attract and to help our businesses, at the same time keeping our Clovis identity. So that's my goals and hope for this process.
One more thing. But that is a super cool goal of this. Attracting business is different than having a billboard or a sign ordinance, right? That's the nuance of, I think, a sign ordinance that's interesting. Like, what is it that we don't have that, I don't know, Canes can't put a chicken on their roof or whatever it is? I mean, what is it that we're not being able to do? So I think that is the right objective. And then the specifics, I think we've identified here in this discussion. But I think all can happen. Back to how we started this a long time ago, I don't want to lose the interest in the billboard question, because it's getting kind of, the question is stale. It's been around a long time, so we need to either answer it or move along. That's what
All right, at this time, go ahead and open the public portion. If you have any comments regarding this item, you can address the council on it.
Good evening. My name is Stephen Trevino. I live on Bullard. Just recently, I went to LAX, right by Inglewood, California. Exciting place. Century Avenue. People walking all over the place. Tourists from all over the world. And here in Clovis, we have Shaw Avenue, the Avenue. The Avenue. That's one of the most exciting places, down Shaw Avenue, right there by the Save Mart Center. We got some nice hotels. And then we have Clovis Avenue, those big signs going to the Clovis, the Fresno International Yosemite Airport. And when you're landing from Fresno, anywhere into Fresno, what do you see? You see that big Budweiser sign right there as you're flying in. And so I think we need these digital signs in places where we know people from where people come from all over the world to come to Fresno, to the Save Mart Center, and they come to the baseball games, to the concerts that we've recently seen at the right here just recently. Yeah. And so we need, I think, I'm not in agreement with having them at Walmart and shopping centers, but along these highways, along these major streets, I believe it would be a big plus for the city of Clovis, in my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Trevino. Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, anyone on web?
We do not.
Okay. All right, and this is an approval, so,
I'll make a motion that we approve this contract, although I haven't seen it, which is a little risky, but I'm going with approving the contract for Forest Creeks, Inc. For the sign code review with the discussion that we had tonight. It gives you some direction.
okay.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion second on the floor. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, George. Okay. Now move to item 17. This is consider support for the California Association of Joint Powers Authorities statewide tort reform coalition letter and authorize the city manager to execute the coalition's logo authorization and release form. And staff on this, Charlie. Okay, Charles Johnson, go ahead, Charlie.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and council members. My item is going to be very short, but very important amongst risk managers throughout the state. So with that, my goal tonight is to obtain council support for the Coalition to Protect Community Services, legislative advocacy efforts for meaningful tort reform affecting public entities, and also to provide authorization to the city manager to execute the coalition logo authorization release form, which would allow the city of Clovis to be identified as a supporting agency with the statewide efforts. So just to provide you with a little background, this coalition is a statewide partnership for public agencies that is comprised of municipalities, special districts, JPAs, and also counties, advocating for legislative reforms to address the growing financial impact of civil liability claims amongst public entities. And the proposed reform seeks to change what's currently existing. So what's currently existing is the joint and several liability rule, and what that is, if the city is actually found to be at fault related to any type of tort claim, we are on the hook for 100% of the plaintiff economic damages if the co-dependent can actually pay. So with this proposed reform, it will require public agencies to pay only their proportionate share of economic damages. And also it is to establish reasonable limits for recoverable plaintiff damages. Also, that's putting caps. So plaintiff can't actually sue the city for, multiple millions of dollars. It's actually creating a criteria for caps for liability torts. So why does this matter? Because public entity liabilities cost continues to rise significantly, and the organization called California Joint Powers Insurance Authority did a study, and it revealed that insurance premiums for California public agencies have increased approximately 370%, from 115 million in 2016 to 541 million in 2025. And that's a pretty alarming amount. And just like I mentioned again, that's 370% increase. And additionally, they also found that since 2019, known public entity liability exposure has grown to more than over $7 billion. And this is due to numerous of factors, and some are consisting of plaintiff-friendly liability decisions and also social and immediate impact the public opinion. So as a result, increasing litigation costs reduces availability for public safety. So how it currently exists, if the city is actually sued for an astronomical amount, that would actually reduce public services, also reduce road and infrastructural maintenance, parks and recreation, and other essential city services. This coalition, it would be very supportive to the city by promoting responsible fiscal management and also protects taxpayers' resources. And also helps preserve funding for essential municipal services. So what council, there's no financial impact related to participating in this supportive efforts, and staff is actually recommending the approval of the city actually participating in this effort to advocate for this reform, this tort reform, and also advocate for the city manager authorized to execute the logo authorization and release form. So here to answer any questions that council may have.
Any questions? Okay, go ahead, Diane.
Yeah, I just have one. How, if this is successful, how would that impact the city's interest in settling claims versus potentially actually taking them to court? Assuming the city feels it genuinely isn't at fault or liable, I know oftentimes it's in our best interest to just go ahead and settle and not deal with that. Would this make it more feasible or realistic for us to actually defend ourselves in some of these actions, or how would that kind of factor into that consideration?
I'm not sure if it would make it more defensible, but it would make it where it's not an astronomical amount. You know, let's say like if, you know, the city is actually sued and we are found to be at fault for a liability claim, other than bankrupting the city, where it's multiple millions of dollars, it's actually establishing a cap where it's within reason. It's making the process more equitable and fair.
Any other questions? Okay. We're going to go ahead and open the public portion. Any comments, questions on this? Okay, anyone on web?
There is none.
Okay, then we'll bring back to the council. What's the pleasure of the council? Asking for approval.
A motion to authorize the city manager to execute the logo authorization and release form.
Okay. We have a motion and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Now we move to, thank you, Charles.
Thank you.
We move to city manager comments.
Yes,
Andy.
thank you, Mayor. First off, Family Fun in the Park is continuing. So this next week, they are at Pinnacles Park and moving through the month of August. As long as it's not too hot, head on out and enjoy it. We have a movie night in the park coming up on August 8th at Bicentennial Park, and August 22nd at Pasatiempo Park. And then a little brief report out. So this is one of our Celebrate 250 events where we were microchipping pets before the 4th of July, and we had 160 animals microchipped during that event. So it's kind of a fun fact. And if you aren't aware, Miss Winkles, my dog was microchipped by Miss Winkles. It's a great deal, and it's a great way to get them into our system and licensed. So just a shout out to Miss Winkles and their efforts there. With that, I'll turn it back to you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. We'll go to council comments. Councilmember Basco.
Yeah, just, I did go to the North Kings ground water meeting last week, and one of the things that came up in that conversation was actually that last year's water count came in at around 75%. When it was all said and done. So they don't really feel like it's going to have a major impact on us for this rest of this summer going into the water year. But they did talk about the El Nino water effects this year, talking about this year is supposed to be an El Nino year, which really means we don't know because we don't know where it's going to hit in the state of California. So it could be all up in Northern California, it could hit Oregon. So where they are predicting it'll be a wet water year, not really sure how that's going to play in the Central Valley. So if we go into this next year and it's another year of 75%, then we'll start to have some water issues. Right, Scott? Did I miss anything on it? Okay, that's all I have.
Okay. Councilmember Bessinger.
I'm going to bring up something uncomfortable. We have a Clovis election coming up. I think we have 5 candidates in this room. I'm concerned that we are setting the bar for saying that it's normal to castigate your opponents, calling them names, attacking their character, and normalize it. Diane, we need to back off from calling people woke, weak, rhinos. It's okay to say, I don't agree with you. It's okay to say, I wish my colleagues had joined me in my motion for X, Y, and Z. But in my opinion, the voters expect more from us. I think if we start attacking each other publicly, not on the issues, but making personal attacks, then everybody is going to assume that this is normal and that it's okay. And I don't think it is. So if you could dial back the rhetoric, that would be really, I think, helpful. I think our citizens would probably appreciate it. But there were people after several of these things who sent me letters asking me to silence you. And I said, no. We're all responsible for what comes out of our mouths. There were other people who wanted to keep Lynn out of the mayor's seat. And I said, no, that would embarrass our citizens. It's the wrong thing to do. We cannot set a tone that it's okay to do the wrong thing and embarrass the citizens. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe people are okay with that. It's getting too far, and I don't want the other candidates in the room to think it's okay to sling mud. I don't want to belabor the point. I'm concerned.
Thank you. Councilmember Ashbeck?
Well, it's funny, I wrote something similar to that. Maybe I won't read it, but I do think that's right. What was that mean, the mayor? That's weird, but okay, whatever. I guess I want to say, maybe I'll read this another day, but I want to say this. If you look at a 1940s high school graduation picture in the Clovis Museum, it looked a lot like the people that were at the rally on whenever that was. What day was that? Last week. And I think that was described as an invasion. It wasn't an invasion, it was just regular people who came to Clovis. So it looks just like the 1940 graduating class of Clovis High. And I think if you think back to the story of the Akeda family and the kindness that the Brars showed to them as they were being sent to an internment camp, nobody were using words that we see so normally today. And I can't for the life of me figure out who talks like that. And I agree with Drew that it's normal. It's normal now, but it's not who Clovis is. So I do think we have an opportunity to use language that describes issues, but words like sick and disgraceful and vile and wacko and hijacked, those are all just social media performance words, and we deserve better. So I agree with Drew. I think we live in a really sort of difficult time. And I don't, I think, Diane, you're the one running now against VOG, and VOG would apply to VOG, and it applies to everybody here that's running for something. We don't need to talk like that. But there's such a glee that comes from that. So I want to say that our city deserves more. Our staff deserves more. Our staff is working so hard. And to live in a world where that's the way we talk about things, I just think is, just because everyone else does doesn't mean we have to do that. So I do not think it reflects our community values, and we are all judged by the actions of those sitting up here. So whether you're running for office or you're not, if you go out there as a council member, you reflect on all of us. Not you, but all of us you. So I had something similar. I'll save the details, but I think we are treading in really dangerous waters, and it's very destructive. It has ruined relationships, communities. It's terrible. So whatever we can do, all of us, to dial it back, all of us, not just looking at you, but all of us, I think is really important. So I would echo what Drew said. I'll save my speech for another night, but it's not dissimilar. People don't talk like that are seriously wanting to be civic leaders. People talk like that because they want to be partisan, popular on social media. And it's ruining this country and it's ruining this community. So I'll second what Drew says.
Mayor Pro Tem Pierce?
Yeah, I think when people come into our community with signs that say 8647, I think that's sick. And I'm not going to pretend or sugarcoat that. I think that's inappropriate, and I think it deserves to be called out when we have people who are denigrating supervisors for having a desire to do a study for the impacts of a measure on an entire county of people they represent, and they are called racist for that. I think that that is inappropriate and deserves to be called out. And we can all be responsible for our language and how we choose to address those things, and I'm happy to be responsible for that on my end. I think we have a situation with what started out as a measure, but it's obviously gotten much larger than that, and I think our community and the voters deserve to hear where people stand on that. And so in the interest of a campaign, which I have no interest in bringing a campaign for county supervisor onto a city council dais, but I'll respond to the things that are brought up, and that is my perspective on it. It is issue-oriented, it's policy-oriented, and I think those things are inappropriate, and I'll call them as I see them.
Thank you, Diane. I'll report out what I went through. Okay, I met the Parkinson's support group. And so Wilbur Rimper, he plays ping pong at our old senior center, and he asked me to go play against him. This guy is a silver medalist ping pong player. Crushed me. So, but he is just wanting to get this out more, and so I said I would bring it. And Chad, I'll leave it so that way you can help put the word out, because just for him to get people to come out. They do that, and they also do boxing. So I said, I'm not going to go box you guys because I'll get beat up too. So I said I chose ping pong, and I played in a suit, and so they laughed at me.
Everything in a suit.
Yeah. But anyway, so just want to report that we went to the COG, and two issues at the COG. Okay, one is there is some discussion with regards to appointments onto FCTA, and so because of that, there is a bylaws committee that is re-evaluating sort of what's going on, how we can kind of navigate and strengthen the bylaws. So that's one. And the second is, and I think, Andy, you're going to have staff look at this. It's a potential challenge of our regional transportation plans, RTP. It's based on CEQA analysis, financial analysis, and so if there is no measure, the letter is just saying, you guys are out of compliance, you're gonna get sued. And so because a lot of the projects that we submit states we're relying on this match, that match, and if there is no match, then our RTP is inaccurate. And so they said, hey, kind of change it all up or fix it. And so I'll leave this with you, and we can analyze it internally, what it means, and if there is exposure for us in our RTP plan, if there is no Measure C, and that's sort of the gist of that. I wanted to just congratulate, but also sadly say goodbye to a couple of retirements. Lori has left us, right? And so we went to that. It was great to see a lot of people from all departments come, and she's probably the one who meets all the employees. And so just wish her well. And then Chief Eck, and I think from fire, he didn't want anything added. It was just very great to hear. It was a very nice just event. And so we just thank him for his services here and for blessing us with his 7 years before he rides off into the sunset with his wife back down to Hanford. We also had our Fire Marshal, Rick Foltz. He also retired. Wealth of knowledge, just sort of an expert in his field. And so for us to lose such just great people who have such long standing here, not that we would stop them, but we also would welcome if they stayed a couple more years. But we're losing them, and got to meet the replacement, a fine young man who's going to fill those shoes for our fire department. And then just wanted to say also, I can't remember. There was a dinner welcoming Australian delegates that came, and so it was done by the Maddie Institute. So I got a chance to meet them. They got a chance to visit Old Town, 9/11 Memorial, and just, I don't know if they met with the city, but at least they saw us and got to experience that. Went to Game Fest, which I think the Vietnam veterans put together as a 3-day gaming conference here. A couple grand openings to Ross, to Miguel's Artisan. We had a Kaiser tour and All-American Flooring and a couple more, but just great to see small businesses, big businesses come, and a lot of them are coming to Old Town, securing those spots. It's just neat. And then we also had a Kaiser tour because is one of the insurance plans for us. So we got to see their new building and see what services they had. I think most of us asked for when are they going to build more in Clovis with regards to their center. And so that. And then I think that's, I do want to address something with regards to the measure, because I think it is important for us to know the facts, even wherever it is. And so I want to make sure that our residents get facts instead of just talking points. And I think with the measure, it has been said that, hey, we're going to take everybody out of our cars and move them to buses. I just want to say to the residents, we are just maintaining what we have. And if we lose the measure, we actually will not be able to serve all the students and all the elderly. And paratransit is going to hurt, and that is our roundup, to be able to go here, there, and now it's causing staff to reanalyze what we are going to do, which staff to let go, which routes to shorten, and it's none of that at all. It's just maintaining what we have had for 40 years, and to maintain is important, because initially when we went into those discussions, yes, the social justice groups and the environmentalists, whatever, they did want almost 45%, but it's because we sat together and discussed it and said, no, let's just keep it the same. And that's what happened when you sit together and you talk. And so instead of just, saying, oh, because you're that color, you must be bad, and because you're this color, you must be good. No, I think God can use anybody to bring good ideas in, and we as electeds have to be able to sit with everyone, because what if, that's why Hmong people have 10 children. What if it was the 10th child who is the, millionaire and who's the expert? Sort of like, let's talk to everyone. Let's try to meet with everyone. And so it was never that high. And I think if you look at it, I've always asked, if it says it and where does it say it, I think there's a lot of falsehoods out there, and because of what's going on, let's just address what's there. I think they're saying that, that we're going to put bike lanes everywhere, and we're going to look like Tower District. I was in those meetings. You build your roads according to what your actual transportation plan is and what you have figured out. In other words, I was in the room when I said, I cannot agree with you putting bike lanes in Old Town. If you're going to require that, Clovis is out. That was the job of every mayor who was there since November 2024. And so I said, we can't do that. You have to allow Clovis to build what Clovis wants. And so that's why the language of where feasible, according to your plans. And so that's why, no, don't be scared, Clovis. We don't like those type of bike lanes. It's not going to happen there. But we do like bike lanes. We do like trails. And I said, oh, it's 120 miles of trails. Why can't the county have trails? Why can't small cities be like us? And they can with this money. And that's the way they do it. So it's not forcing it. So it's 120 miles, but we get to build about 22. And you know what happened? We talked about those trails. They required class 1, which is paved almost 8 feet, all that kind of stuff. And in those meetings, I said, we cannot do that. If you do not allow our canal banks to be included, which is unpaved, and I said to Jerry Dyer, Mayor Dyer, your trails on McKinley are 4 feet, don't qualify. And so what happened? Well, they wrote in there, all class 1 will include canal banks that are unpaved. We got it. So now we can do 25 miles. We can build in District 1, which has the least amount of trails. And now we can say, we're going to build that. We're going to connect that all the way to the Clovis Old Town Trail. We're going to connect it to the northern part of it. We got canal banks so we can put trails for every resident because our residents like our trails. And everyone who has visited us said, we like that too. They're saying it's too prescriptive, so you can't do anything. That's why we want it, because it is prescriptive. It's telling you, it's got to do this, you got to do that, and there is the same oversight from a citizens committee that we've had for 40 years. And now that same citizens committee is going to be hijacked by the mayors who are going to appoint the people to oversee it. I said, no. And even if it's hijacked, the measure is so prescriptive that you can't hijack it. You got to spend this much on this road, this much on that road. And so that is important. We've been involved since October 2024, and it was in January when the plan was finally finished, and that's when the opposing side finally came with the plan and put it on the dais and said, do this plan. No input. Look at the number of census tracts we've had, look at the number of input from the community, and now 5 people, along with some electeds who believe it, will decide for the entire county? No, that doesn't work. It doesn't work. And they're saying, oh, now that because it was those people asking, every voice was important. They came to Clovis. So that means what? Our residents, when they participated, not good enough? I said, no, it's good enough. I'm going to take every voice. We're going to listen and make it safe and good. And there's also 150 safe routes to school. So you know what that means? Lynn, you've been worried about Ashland where it goes from 2 lanes to 1 lane because that one parcel is not developed. Because our PCI is above 65 already, we can use this money to fix that because it's not considered new construction. I argued for that. I said, well, if that's new construction, then we're out. Because we need that sidewalk and we need that street to be built out. Our kids cannot be walking and then, or a mother with a stroller and go, oh, now you're in dirt because it's raining. No, you allow us to fix those. So that way, sort of right there on Sunnyside, we could have built that and we will get reimbursed when it's built out. So every infill sidewalk that is needed or bike lane that is needed, we can build it immediately because we're already at 65. That can make, and we can say that to our residents, go, look, we're going to be the shining example of what flexibility is and what money is for. And there's talk about, oh, it's a 30-year scam. So 20 years is not a scam? It's 30 years, it's too long. Oh, but Measure Y is forever? It's not too long? You see, what the hypocrisy is right there. We can't be like that. We have to be responsible with what we say. And so if you can defend Measure Y, then okay, let's hear it. It's only 30 years, more money. We are doubling what we can get. And so that is important here in the city of Clovis. And I wanted to put those out because the process, I will say this, regardless of who you put in the room, it's the measure in the end. Put 2,000 conservatives or 2,000 liberals, whatever, it doesn't matter. In the end, it comes to the COG. And the COG, meaning the Council of Governments, gets to look at it and go, no, I don't like this. Forget steering committee. So in other words, there was actually work done. The county said they have not been involved. Lynn, you can attest, they've been involved from the beginning. I've seen those the county officials at every meeting. You know what they've also been involved with? Staff level. They sent them to technical committees. And you know what happens in a committee? Sometimes you get yours, sometimes you don't. But Clovis got everything they asked for. So if it's so extreme, why can't conservative Clovis get what they want? It's because we were involved. Our representative, Adam Hope, was in every meeting. And so we're saying what? He abdicated his duties? No. He did exactly what we asked of him, to be involved and to be there. So many of us supported this plan, and some supported another plan, which had 0 signatures, which had, did not make it. And in their plan, they keep touting this 80-something percent, 82%. Only 49 is for actual roads. The other for active transportation plans, which is your sidewalks and your bike lanes and your trails, it requires a match. It says that in the first bullet point right afterwards. And I've asked our staff, how often do we get a match for a sidewalk? Hardly see it here. How often do we get a match for a bike lane? Very few times. So in other words, those won't even get built. But like I said earlier, you will get it, Clovis, if we have this measure. And it'll be there. Because all the things that we are being scared about, there's where feasible, if feasible. You know who decides feasibility? This staff and the council in the future. They decide, and they know our community best. And so if the city of Clovis decides this is feasible, this is where we can do it, or nope, doesn't work, we don't need that, we can't do it, it's not in our plans, we don't have to. So don't be scared. Don't be scared. Just because we have a title and we say it, it's not always true. It's in the plan. Read it. And if anyone opposes, say, where does it say that? Show me the paragraph and the line. And if they can't, talking points. I can show you everywhere that I have said this evening where it is. That's why it's disturbing as electeds that we have to be accountable for what we say. Not because we want to win something or because we got the news in front of us, but because it serves you. It serves you and allows our staff to do the right job. And so, and even the language with regards to canal banks and unpaved, it's in there. I can tell you exactly where it's at. So that saves us. And so I wanted to just put that out there. You know, we have about 21 miles. I think we're going to do that. And just to say, the latest development is with regards to what was in the news, and people went on radio to talk about it and saying it's a hijack, and it says, that's negative thinking. We are together. This allows the county to do their job, 30 days. And the state comes in and goes, we'll help you. You can still get your study and get it on the ballot. That's teamwork. And it's not because they saved and you go, no, this will show who really wants this measure for the people. Because if there's a rescue and you go, play dirty, pay back. No, they played according to what they can do. This actually saves everyone. The county gets their study, and the people get to see it on the ballot. We all win. Don't we all want to win? Yes. But it's going to be said, they cheated, so-and-so cheated. No, no one cheated. The county did their duty. They took the 30 days by all means. And then the state said, hey, we'll help you. Let's get it to the finish line. And you know when it gets to the finish line and it gets voted on, then you get all to decide. And if it passes, then the staff can kind of relax and go, okay, we're going to get our monies coming forward. And so that I think is the right way to look at what we do here. People first, people always there, we win. It's a win-win for everyone. I have to say something with regards to, it's been me in the spotlight. And we apologize to the people of Clovis because I'm in a potential race. You guys have to hear everything. And I struggle a lot. You see that sign up here? In God we trust. It's telling me some people only see it as a motto, M-O-T-T-O. I see it as a way of life. How do I live up to that? How do I maintain that? How do I keep that where it's the character of me always going, how do I remain like Christ? Because it's not a motto. It's a way of life. It's who I am. Christ never yelled at anyone. If he said anything, it was to the hypocrites. It was to the people, his own people selling stuff. That was the only time. They came to arrest him. He put the ear back. He touched the guy, called him by his name, Malchus. Could have done anything. And the struggle is, you see, it was never they'll know us by our politics. They'll believe my faith by how strong I am. They'll know us by our love. And Diane, I see you as a sister in Christ. My daily prayer is to always see you as that. To always treat you as such. Respect is to go, yeah, you can do that. But the harder thing for me is to go, how do I love you continually? How do I love those who disagree with me continually? This has to be important. This has to be within us. And we can do these things because it matters to us. And that what matters is the truth. And we've all used to see those little T-shirts and little bracelets as WWJD, what would Jesus do? And I have to keep going back to yourself. I have to do what is right. A picture with some of you because you're in a union. A picture with some of you because you have a different gender. A picture with some of you because you believe something politically different than me. You're going to get chastised. You're going to get, called names. And a name because some of you support me, it'll be there. That's not who you are. You're good and loving in the eyes of who I serve. And I'll stand and I will take every photo with all of you because not everyone is perfect, especially not me. The criticism should be, why did you take a picture of Vaughn? Because he's an imperfect man. And I think if we think back, if social media was around when Christ was around, he would have been chastised because he stood with prostitutes. He stood with people who took money. He stood with murderers. He stood with thieves. He stood with people who needed a voice. And he just said, hey, I'm bringing you something good. And that's important. And that's why I think we shouldn't judge people because of a label. And I wanted to bring this as an example. When my colleague first called out people who were on the measure with me as radicals and whatever name they use, I asked, have you ever met my friend? No. How can you call people a name you never met them? How can you call people a name you never even ate with them? That's not who we are. That's not who I am. And so I won't do that, and I'm not going to do that, because Clovis deserves us to be good and to be united. And so I will associate with all of you, and I will do my best. You see, it's something that we forget, that sometimes our race, we keep thinking it's the next election, or it's getting into a certain school or a certain career. Our race, and I think all of us up here claim to be Christians, and many of you, our race is for eternity. And in the end, we have to be able to explain why we stood a certain way. And I think it's important that we do that. And so I just wanted to say that, and I think it's something that's been weighing on my heart. But I'm not gonna change just because there's more things said. No, I'm gonna love you. I'm gonna keep praying for me to love you. Keep praying for me to keep turning my cheek. And so that's how it is. So I just want to say that we're gonna now move to closed session.
Can I
So-
say one thing to ruin this whole moment? Sorry, not to have the last word. Could I say something?
Yeah.
Thank you for those comments. I do, though, want to, I had this whole list of things that are right, but I do want to, when you talk about the county, I did want to go on record tonight as saying I think the hiring of the person who wrote the opposite measure to do the study is insane. So I am profoundly disappointed in the county. To say that is not a conflict, I don't understand that at all. That's not who we are, but the fact that there's no outrage, that we go, that's okay. They're gonna pay her $170,000 to write an analysis of a measure she opposed, and one of her consultants outwardly has said he hates the measure, is insane to me. So I just want to go on public record. I'll write a letter to the county if I have to, but I'm so disappointed in that. How that can be defensible in any circumstance, I do not know. But we are surrounded in this swamp of language and behavior that is just unacceptable under any circumstance. But I wanted to get that on the record because I'm really disappointed in Fresno County. I thought they were better than that, and I will never understand why people are not saying that that's a conflict. So the study's gonna come back and say it's not gonna be great, but we could have saved them $170,000 for not doing that. So you're a better person than I am. I've known that all along, but I wanted to get that on the record tonight because it is shameful that that is not being met with outrage by people that say, I'm for good governance, all of that. It's totally unacceptable. So thank you for letting me rain on your parade a little bit, but I wanted to get it in the record tonight as you're talking about the measure, because that is totally, it's like having a fundraiser, taking money and then voting for somebody. It's the same thing. So anyway, the process is swampy. I'll say that. So I'm glad you're a better person than I am.
Thank you. We're gonna move to
Can I
closed
just
session.
respond?
I think you have next week
briefly?
to respond. Yeah, because we've already talked about what we went through and what we needed. I think you have plenty of time to write a soliloquy to respond next week, and then I think we can do it that way. So thank you very much. Okay, we're going to move to closed session, and we have 4 items on the closed session. Item 18 is conference with legal counsel, workers' compensation. Same thing with item 19. The first one is with Jason Smoke. Second is with Thomas Roberts. The third one, at item 20, conference with legal counsel with litigation, potential litigation, workers' comp with Jennifer De La Torre. And item 21 is agency designation, potential employee organization, the Transit Employees Bargaining Unit. Anything to report out, Scott?
No, we're not asking that for action on any.
All right. And so, thank you very much. We are adjourning to closed session.
And Mayor, there were no public comments.
Thanks for using WebEx.